Welcome to Creation Magazine Live. This is a program where we take articles from Creation Magazine, which is our flagship publication here at Creation Ministries, and we just kind of expand on them a little bit and discuss them and encourage you to get to our website and then look up the whole article. Usually a lot of the articles we cover are archived on the website. And of course you can also subscribe to Creation Magazine and you can get the latest and greatest delivered right in your home. So,
yes,
talking about dinosaurs today?
Back issues. Yes, dinosaurs. Dinosaur Feather Folly, an article by David Catchpool from the March to May 2007 issue. That's 29.2. And of course, many people would have heard the notion that dinosaurs evolved into birds. Right. This is that's one evolutionary view. There are others, and this article highlights the battle between the dino to bird evolution camp.
That's been very much popularized, this concept of dino to bird. I mean, you look at Jurassic Park, that was said very openly in that movie. Millions of people have seen Jurassic Park, so I'm noticing a lot of pictures, just in online news stories and whatever. They'll often show feathers on dinosaurs now, even though many evolutionists don't agree with that position,
right? But the public, as far as the public opinion goes, dinosaurs, they understand that that's evolution. Dinosaurs, or some types of dinosaurs, evolved into birds.
So really, when you're having your Kentucky Fried Chicken, it's KFD. It might be Kentucky Fried Dinosaur.
Kentucky Fried Dinosaur. Yeah. David Catchpool writes, Sinosauroptex, a small dinosaur, made headlines in 1996. Why? Because its fossil was reported to have a coat of filamentous structures dubbed dinofuzz feathers. Dinofuzz feathers is what it was called. It was touted by many as definitive evidence of dino to bird evolution. But a recent study by renowned ornithologist Alan Feduccia and his colleagues shows that these and other filamentous structures with filaments, filamentous, I'll get that right, filamentous structures, were not feathers or, quote, proto-feathers. Instead, they were likely the remains of collagenous fiber meshworks that reinforce the skin. In light of this and other studies, Dr. Feduccia says that continuing controversies over, quote, feathered dinosaurs make no sense. That's what he says.
Feduccia is a bird expert. He's well known as an expert on
an evolutionary bird expert as well. And it says so right in the article here. Feduccia is an evolutionist, not a creationist. Quote, we all agree that birds and dinosaurs had some reptilian ancestors in common, end quote, he says.
Because he believes in evolution.
Right, yes. And then he says again, but to say dinosaurs were the ancestors of modern birds we see flying around outside today because we would like them to be is a big mistake. And that's a quote right from him. Feduccia is also aware that the creationists delight in demolishing dino-to-bird idea. And this is what he says. The theory that birds are the equivalent of living dinosaurs and that dinosaurs were feathered is so full of holes that the creationists have jumped all over it. We're pointing out the holes in evolutionary ideas, as we have done for many years.
So what he's saying here is he's an evolutionist. He wants to promote evolution because that's what he believes in. But he's saying, look, these are such bad arguments. If you guys keep using them, the creationists are all over this stuff, pointing out all these problems, and it's damaging the concept of evolution as a whole.
That's his concern. Yes. So we're pointing out the same problems that he's trying to point out.
We're not making bad arguments, we're making good arguments. That's what he's saying.
Yes. It's okay. The creationists have jumped all over it, using evolutionary nonsense of dinosaurian science as evidence against the theory of evolution. That's where the quote ends. Out of the holes is that evolutionary timeline contradicts itself, as it dates bird-like dinos, the supposed precursor to full birds, millions of years after the famous fossil of Archaeopteryx, which was a full-fledged, fully developed flying bird, and even after the beaked bird Confucianosaurus.
Confucianosaurus. I don't know.
Something like that.
It kind of sounds like Confucius with a saurus on the end of it.
Let's just keep going. You can read the article. You can read it yourself and try and pronounce this.
Translation of that word.
Latin. I never took Latin. It's a problem. As further fossils are discovered, it just gets more awkward. The discovery of, quote, exquisitely preserved Giraffenaptor dinosaur fossil in Germany recently was, quote, a big surprise. Why? Because it had scales. Yet it comes from a dinosaur family that evolutionists presume to have feathers.
Right.
You get another problem here. various imagined scenarios were offered as to the lack of feathers, but evolutionists were loath to question their own presumption, that is,
Right.
that it should have had feathers in the first place. Feduccia laments that the publication and promotion of feathered dinosaurs by the popular press and by prestigious journals and magazines including Science, Nature, and National Geographic means that opposing arguments are not being given a proper hearing. And here's another quote from Feduccia. With the advent of the feathered dinosaurs, we are truly witnessing the beginnings of the meltdown of the field of paleontology, he said. Just as the discovery of the four-chambered heart in a dinosaur described in 2000 in an article in Science turned out to be an artifact, feathered dinosaurs, too, have become a part of the fantasia of this field. This is still part of the quote, by the way.
Fantasia.
He continues. Much of this is part of the delusional fantasy of the world of dinosaurs. The wishful hope is that one can finally study dinosaurs at the backyard bird feeder. And that's where the quote ends.
Right.
As for his own favored evolutionary scenario, Feduccia is cautious. He says, it is now clear that the origin of birds is a much more complicated question than was previously thought. What a pity that Dr. Feduccia can't yet accept that birds did not come from an evolutionary lineage, but were created to reproduce after their kind, just as we see them doing today.
Right.
And so the article ends.
Now, what's really interesting about this when you think about it is, what if dinosaurs did have feathers? Would that make is that really a big deal? I mean, feathers can be used. I mean, flightless birds today have feathers. It provides them with some warmth, etc. What if dinosaurs did have feathers? It's really not that big of a deal.
Yes.
But what we keep pointing out is, you know, these rock solid proofs of dinosaurs having feathers, they don't really hold water. It's just an evolutionary concept. You know, when you look at things like Archaeopteryx, and they're claiming that this is this missing link between, you know, lizards and birds, reptiles and birds.
Right.
It kind of seems to bolster their argument of one thing turning into another thing, and, you know, this common ancestry. But it's just, there's not a lot of solid facts there.
And I guess we should say too, Archaeopteryx is best understood as a mosaic. It's got features of various different, kind of like the platypus.
Yeah.
Right, but it's a mosaic. It had fully formed feathers. Mm-hmm. So you don't see something becoming feathers. That's where this could have gone. This back in '96, when this was these fibers were discovered, and it was thought, oh, here's something. It's a transitional feather. It's something becoming a feather, but it turns out that they're not. It's just structures to help the skin.
But Feduccia has already pointed out that Archaeopteryx was a perching bird. He's actually made comments like, no amount of paleobabble is going to change that. I remember reading a quote by him saying that. You know, you can try to spice this up any way you want. That's why he's talking about the meltdown of paleontology.
Yes,
because
strong words there.
Yeah, the ideology behind we're going to force this conclusion based on a presupposition.
Right.
This is what he's arguing against, because you see the way he's talking about it. He's cautious. Well, that's what science should be, right? You're cautious. You're testing things. You're looking at things. But these wild claims, as a matter of fact, we remember years ago in National Geographic had a whole article on what was called feathered dinosaurs. They had tyrannosaurs with feathers on it, and it turned out to be a complete hoax. And they had to actually, print a rebuttal saying, "Oh yeah, that this actually wasn't the way it was," and et cetera, et cetera.
Amazing.
Anyway, you can look at more dino to bird transitional articles on our website, creation.com.